Tony, my timing of arrival was a bit awkward this morning.
That's not awkward at all. You know, the lad's here and having a medical, and you know, we're hoping to try and get it done if we can.
People will wonder whether it's connected to other stuff happening with Sido Berahino. What can you tell us about that?
No, not at all. That deal has got absolutely nothing to do with Sido's position at this football club. You know, we want Sido to stay at this football club. You know, as I've said before, you never say never in football. You know, there's players of greater stature than Sido that people have said they'd never sell, and in the end they sell them. So, you know, my stand on it is you never say never, but we'd like Sido to stay. You know, we think it would be in his interests to stay at this football club, football-wise, and we'll do our damnedest to try and keep him here.
With Fazio, what do you see in him?
I think he's a very, very good defender. You know, he's coming from a top club in Tottenham, and he wants to play football. But the boy wants to play regular football and wants to come and show that he can, you know, not only compete but do well in the Premier League. And I think that, you know, that ambition and that drive and desire, you want people of that drive and desire in your football club. And obviously he's been a top player with Seville. I think he's won 2, you know, Europa Cup medals, winners' medals. He's got great experience, and it's it's a good sign for the football club.
Are you hoping to get that deal done in time to maybe use him on Sunday?
We're hoping that that we can conclude it one way or the other.
Yeah, that's fair enough. With regards to Sido, I mean, your chairman came out and said pretty clearly that he was quite insulted by a £15 million offer.
Well, you'd have to speak to the chairman. I don't know what offers they've got, what offers they don't get. You know, I just look after the football side of it. I think if you actually look at what Jeremy's done at the football club, especially financially, and the way he's built the club up over the past 10, 12 years, I don't think there's, you know, certainly I'm not going to argue with the way he's run the football club and how well it's been run. And you know, you just look around, everything's in place, everything is owned by West Bromwich Albion Football Club, and it's done to a Premier League spec. And that hasn't just happened overnight. That's taken a lot of hard work over a long period of time, and you have to give him credit for that. So when it comes to deals and saying what the club, you know, would need and what should happen, then I think he's better placed to do that than me.
Has it affected Sido at all?
No, Sido's been as good as gold. As I've said, from the first minute I walked in, I think he was a bit sullen. And transfer windows, irrespective of who you are, they do disrupt people and, you know, disrupt football clubs, never mind individuals. So, you know, the sooner the window's over, the better.
If you had to have a chat with him, are you convinced he wants to stay here?
No, he's in the same position. I've told Sido exactly the same as I've told you. You know, Sido's not going anywhere until he goes somewhere. So, you know, he's got to get his head down and work hard and, you know, keep showing, you know, the quality that he's shown over the past, or is it 6 months, 7 months up in a football club?
Would it be really tricky if you did lose him from your perspective, though? 10 days before the end of the window, you've built a lot of your plans around him. So how
well, we'll deal with that if that situation arises, and you know that's what you have to do. Football management, you know, football clubs, running, you know, the ins and the outs of football clubs is difficult at times, and you have to deal with it. You have to work with it. So, you know, that is, if it happens, then you know we've got to make sure that you know we're in a position where we're not affected by it.
Do you think it will happen?
Me personally, I haven't got a clue. I've stayed away from it, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I want Sido to do. I just want him to concentrate on his football, and you know we've got a very, very big game on Sunday, you know, against the champions, and that's what Sido should be thinking about. That's what everybody's football club should be thinking about.
You wouldn't have any qualms in throwing him in and playing him against Chelsea?
No, not at all.
His head's okay?
Yeah, he's been fine.
What I was going to ask you next is the first 2 games that you've had, a lot more positives, I think you'd say, coming out of the Watford game.
Well, we were disappointed, you know, with a performance against Man City, and then you see what Man City did to Chelsea, and then it puts it in a little bit of perspective. You know, if Sido had taken that chance just after half time to make it 2-1, then you know it could have been, you know, a completely different game. So, you know, Chelsea, Man City have come out of the blocks. The 2 games they've played, they've been absolutely outstanding. You know, they've been of a level far better and greater than anybody else in the first 2 games. I don't think anybody can argue argue about that. Watford game, first half we were disappointed, second half we got better. But the window, we need the window to close, we need to get the players in that we want, and hopefully then we can get everything together. It's been a disruptive window in lots of ways.
I mean, are you planning to bring other players in beyond Fazio?
Yeah, I want to bring players in, but there's also players here, Rob, that need to leave as well. They need to play football, and they're desperate to play football. There's no hiding the fact that some of these lads are, they're footballers, and they want to be out. They're good lads, and I've got the greatest respect for them. But they want to play. They want to be out playing. So we're working as hard as we possibly can to try and do that as well. So, but there's a balancing act, and football's not just about what happens on the pitch. It's also about the finances, and it's important that this football club is run as astutely as it's been in the past. That's very, very important.
It's difficult for you, isn't it? You're trying to get the team sorted.
No, Rob, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, transfer window should close, the season should start. Saves all the messing about then. It's ridiculous that we're second week, or is it the third week now into the season, and we're still talking about players coming and going, and all this stuff, and it disrupts everybody. You can't concentrate on really settling something down and working on something. And like I say, this has been as disruptive behind the scenes as I've managed for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, just because of the number of players, like I say, that you want to bring in yourself, and the number of players who want to go and want to play football.
Salomon Rondon made an impact when he came on. He looked good. Is he ready for a start, do you think?
He's getting close. Yeah, he's a great kid. We're working hard on his English. He understands English very well, but he's talking it. He's still not brilliant, but he's working on it. And we've got Yak working with him and trying to sort things out for the kid. But he's a good lad. Yeah, he's worked hard. The lads have taken to him, which is always good.
Chelsea's a crisis on at Chelsea.
Crisis. Yeah, there's a crisis every week at every football club in the Premier League, Rob.
But I mean, joking aside, it's not been the start that they would have wanted.
Joking aside, it is a joke. What you've just said. A crisis after 2 games.
Well, that's what I mean. It was a joke. It was a joke, honestly. But what
Let's move on then, Rob.
Well,
it's not a comedy show, Rob.
No, all right, fair enough. What I'm saying to you is, it's not the start they would have wanted. And Jose, who you know very well, looks far from happy with the way things are and the way things have started. Might there be a bit of a backlash for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think Chelsea, every time you played one of the top teams, we played Man City, they were outstanding. If Chelsea come here and everybody plays to their level, he could have Pedro and Hazard wide and Costa up front. It's not bad, is it? They're a fantastic team. They're champions elect, and they deserve to win it by a country mile last year because they were that far ahead of anybody. So we know it's going to be tough. The opening 4 games for us, when the fixtures came out, were to have Man City and Chelsea, the 2 best teams in the Premier League over the past 5 or 6 years, as your first 2 home games. It was very, very difficult, and like I say, a newly promoted team away from home their first game, and then we go to a local derby, my old club Stoke, on the 4th game. So we knew, and you've got to deal with the window, so we knew how tough this was going to be.
Do you expect them to still be up there challenging? I mean, I wonder whether...
You were still joking now, aren't you?
I was still joking.
Yeah, of course.
But what I wonder...
Of course they will be, Rob.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course they will be.
But you look at the players they've got, and they can bring in somebody like Pedro, and I just wonder from your perspective whether there's still part of you that thinks, at some point in my career I'd like to manage a team that's... No,
I've said this before. I'm very fortunate, lad, to have done what I've done. I'm very happy with my lot, and I've been very fortunate and very, very lucky to work at football clubs right away back from when I started at Bournemouth. The 4 years out at Priestfield was absolutely wonderful. And every club I've been at, there's fond memories. I've had a great time. I wouldn't turn the clock back at all. I've had a wonderful, wonderful life and a great time. To do something, to come out of South Wales at 15, 16 years of age and say that the age I am now and I'm still in professional football and at the top level working at a fantastic football club like West Bromwich Albion with great tradition, I'm lucky. Don't think anything else.
I was looking forward more than back, really. I was wondering whether you've achieved so much.
No, Rob, I just enjoy what I'm doing, and whatever comes my way. But obviously, you want to do it in a way that you want to do it, and that's always been what I've wanted to do. I'm very happy at West Bromwich Albion at the moment. I think it's that it's going to be a season of change this year in lots of respects, and we're hoping to change things around and then to grow it again and start again. But like I say, the football club's a very, very well run football club. The chairman's done wonderful in the way he set it up, and they make a profit every year, Rob. So it's a good model, very good model.
Thanks, mate.
Tony, it's only 3 months ago that you were beating Chelsea 3-0. How much satisfaction did that give you on a personal level?
About 20 minutes after the game, and then you sort of move on to the next game, and that's what football's all about, really. I think most probably Rob is just talking about your life and your career and everything else. Maybe one day I'll sit down when I'm as old as Rob and look back and look at those days and enjoy those days. At the moment, I haven't got time to do that. There's too much going on in my life.
How much do you enjoy the tactical battle of pitting your wits against Jose Mourinho when you come up against him?
Yeah, I think that it's wonderful for me to be in the Premiership and work against top managers. I think that there are top managers in this league, and it's wonderful to do that. It's wonderful to aspire to put yourself against people who have won major trophies, and there's no better manager in the world at the moment than Jose, and it's a privilege, and it'll be great to pit my wits against him again on Sunday.
Do the two of you get on well together?
I find him a very he's a different person away from the cameras the more he is when the cameras are around him. I like him. Yeah.
And you admire his style and the way he goes about it?
I admire what he's achieved. I think what he's achieved is remarkable, and for a person who's has done what he's done, he deserves the respect. And irrespective of he might have little chinks, as we all do, but generally when I've spoken to him, when I've dealt with him, he's been absolutely first class.
Is there ever a good time to play Chelsea?
No.
Did you catch them at the right time back in May?
Well, we did, because we won, and they had a player sent off. I think people forget there was a player sent off as well in that game, and after the game, you most probably say that was a good time to play it. But before the game, I wasn't so sure. So we're going into battle on Sunday knowing that it's a wounded animal in some respects, and it'll be a real tough game.
Tony, just a quick one on players going out. Is there a possibility that Julian Lescott might go if Fazio comes in?
Well, again, it's the stuff that the club are dealing with. I don't get involved in. I know Julian's been speaking to Richard. Julian's a great professional, really top lad, and he's been first class in everything he's done since I've been here. So, but we'll wait and see. We'll see what happens. Like I say, it's a rolling drum at the moment, and until it stops, we won't know where the balls are going to lie.
Any team news?
Yeah, everyone is fit. We've had one or two little niggles, but we're hoping everybody will be fit. We had one or two with a flu bug, which has been a little bit of a concern. So we'll see what's happened today when they all turn up.
Tony, what stage is Fazio at? Has he agreed terms or not?
Well, again, they're still discussing terms, so we're hoping that we can come to some sort of agreement. I think it'll be done today, it'll be concluded today, one way or the other. Whether it's done or whether it's not done.
Yeah, presumably you'd like the problems that Jose's presumably got suggested to have if you can go and spend 21 million quid on a player.
Yeah, like I say, the top clubs are at a different level than what we work at. We're in the same league, but we're not really in the same league.
Okay.